Caitlyn Clark's bullies called out by NBA legend. Fans are furious. Something is happening in women's basketball that no one saw coming. A rookie named Caitlyn Clark has shattered expectations, boosted TV ratings, and ignited a firestorm of controversy that's shaking the WNBA to its core. The uproar isn't just about her shooting range, which extends practically to half court, nor her unbelievable playmaking skills. It's also tied to the behind-the-scenes tension swirling around her sudden stardom. Some say she's the best thing that ever happened to the league. Others believe she's receiving preferential treatment and overshadowing veterans who paved the way. And the uproar only intensified when Michael Thompson, father of Klay Thompson, two-time NBA champion in his own right, coined a shocking acronym to describe the hostility he believes Clark is facing. J.E.E.P, standing for jealousy, envy, ego, and pettiness. This script will take you deep into the heart of that controversy. We'll explore the roots of Clark's rise, the way she's changing the WNBA forever, and the backstage politics that could either elevate her to legendary status or drive her out of the league altogether. By the end, you'll understand exactly why fans are rushing to buy Caitlyn Clark merchandise, and why some veteran players are less than thrilled about it. More importantly, you'll grasp the magnitude of what's at stake. An entire league's future may now rest on the shoulders of one trailblazing rookie. Prepare to be shocked, intrigued, and perhaps even a bit torn as you see how quickly fandom can morph into open hostility. Let's dig in. From unknown to unstoppable. Caitlyn Clark's story begins long before she ever laced up sneakers for her first WNBA tip-off. In high school, she was known locally for scoring outbursts that made headlines in sports-obsessed communities. But it wasn't until she attended Iowa and started taking shots from distances that defied all logic, beyond the three-point line, even near the logo, that the greater basketball world began paying attention. Suddenly, there were viral clips showing a young woman sinking 30-footers with a casual flick of her wrist, game after game. College fans who rarely tuned in for women's hoops found themselves watching Iowa highlights just to see what Clark might do next. She pulled defenders out to half court, leaving open lanes for her teammates. She dished pinpoint passes while defenders scrambled to protect themselves from another improbable three-ball. Her emotional celebrations, fist pumps, confident nods, the occasional stare down, revealed a competitor who radiated swagger. This wasn't just a good college player, it was someone rewriting the rules of engagement. By her junior year, social media erupted anytime Clark did something extraordinary, which occurred almost weekly. The hype was so large that professional scouts publicly speculated she could change the WNBA in ways no player had done before. Even more astonishing, many observers were convinced she'd managed to sway fans who had never given women's basketball a serious look. She wasn't just a standout, she was on track to become a phenomenon. Yet even in college, there were hints that not everyone was on board. A handful of rival coaches complained about the media's Clark obsession, claiming other high-achieving players deserved a fair share of the limelight. Some fans argued her shot selection was too flamboyant or her confidence too showy. But none of that stopped her from becoming the face of women's basketball even before she turned pro. By the time she declared her eligibility for the WNBA draft, the excitement and skepticism were already boiling over. Michael Thompson enters the fray now. If you only know Michael Thompson as Klay Thompson's father, you're missing half his resume. Drafted first overall in 1978, he became a foundational piece for the Portland Trail Blazers before moving to the Showtime-era Los Angeles Lakers. There, he won 2 NBA championships alongside Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Post-retirement, he pivoted to broadcasting and never lost touch with the sport's evolving trends. So when he talks hoops, people listen. Thompson began openly praising Caitlyn Clark while she was still at Iowa. He'd mentioned her during off-air conversations with fellow NBA insiders, saying they needed to check out the girl who shoots from the logo. His colleagues, many of whom admitted they never paid much attention to women's basketball, initially dismissed it as hyperbole. But after seeing clips of Clark lofting in 35-footers as if they were routine free throws, they came back amazed. Thompson's endorsements, it turned out, were not only accurate, they may have actually undersold her abilities. What truly set Thompson apart was his willingness to call out players who targeted Clark physically on the court. He'd noticed certain defenders stepping into her shooting motion, delivering cheap shots under the basket, or throwing an extra shove as she navigated screens. Most fans chalked it up to normal rookie testing, But Thompson saw something more vicious. He labeled it as a mix of jealousy, envy, ego, and pettiness, hence J.E.E.P. In one radio interview, he described how veterans who toiled in relative obscurity for years were venting their frustrations on the new star, possibly out of resentment that their own achievements never generated such massive fanfare. This wasn't Thompson being a casual observer. He had walked through locker rooms filled with legendary athletes, witnessed how jealousy can manifest even among close-knit teammates, and recognized the subtle signs of targeted aggression. He noticed that whenever Clark got extra attention, like extended ESPN segments or trending Twitter hashtags, her next matchup often featured rougher play than usual. A suspicious pattern emerged, one that Thompson believed was no coincidence. With J.E.E.P, he gave fans a shorthand to describe the hostility, making it impossible for league officials to simply ignore. The anatomy of J.E.E.P: jealousy, envy, ego, pettiness. At first glance, these words look similar, but Thompson separated them carefully. Jealousy is that raw, visceral reaction to someone else's success. You might feel threatened, as if their spotlight diminishes. Your own envy escalates those feelings, morphing them into active resentment. It's a deeper longing, an emotional response to seeing someone else get exactly what you want, like massive endorsement deals and sold-out arenas. Ego fuels the refusal to accept that a rookie, fresh out of college, could overshadow seasoned pros who have battled for recognition all their careers. Pettiness is the manifestation of these emotions in tangible actions. Hard fouls, snide remarks to the media, or standoffish behavior in the locker room. Fans who once wrote off these incidents as standard rough play began to sense something bigger. The hits Clark was taking on the floor seemed unusually aggressive, especially when compared to how other rookies were handled. A common narrative emerged. Certain players were going out of their way to send a message. In post-game press conferences, more than one veteran seemed unable to hide their irritation, making subtle digs about overrated hype. Thompson's acronym quickly circulated on sports websites and social media platforms. Supporters said it perfectly explained the complicated mix of emotions swirling through the league. Critics insisted Thompson was scapegoating, yet even those critics couldn't deny that Clark was taking a lot of contact, maybe more than any rookie had in recent memory. Soon, fans began taking bets on which team would try to knock Clark around next, leading to further scrutiny over the league's officiating. Were referees swallowing their whistles because Clark was new? Or were they reluctant to call fouls out of fear the WNBA might be perceived as favoring its breakout star? The long road veterans traveled. To understand the frustrations on the other side, consider the plight of veteran WNBA players. For years, the league has struggled to capture consistent headlines. Many players juggled overseas commitments just to earn a living comparable to what mid-level NBA players make in a single season. They battled for endorsements in a tough market, hoping to land even small local deals. They played in arenas that often had more empty seats than fans, and highlight reels rarely made it to mainstream sports shows. Then comes Caitlyn Clark, younger, flashier, and more heavily hyped than any rookie in decades. Suddenly, ESPN and major networks are spotlighting WNBA games, often mentioning Clark in every promotional segment. The league sees a spike in viewership and attendance that's directly tied to her presence. She single-handedly sells out road arenas, with fans eager to watch her sink buzzer-beating bombs or pull up from 30 feet on a whim. To some veterans, this abrupt shift feels like an insult. They recall countless nights pouring their hearts out on the court, receiving minimal coverage. Now the cameras swarm around a single rookie, as though the league never existed without her. It's easy to imagine how that might trigger envy or bitterness, especially for top-tier players who never got their share of the limelight. Some have voiced their displeasure openly, questioning why the media is so laser-focused on one person. Others keep quiet, letting their frustrations fester behind the scenes. This tension isn't simply about attention, though. WNBA veterans also built a culture. They prided themselves on a sisterhood forged through adversity. Low salaries, limited marketing budgets, constant comparisons to the men's game. That sense of unity is now being tested by an influx of new fans who seem to care only about Clark's next high-scoring performance. If you're a veteran who sacrificed your body and personal life for the league's survival, watching anointed savior figures come in can be deeply unsettling. Thompson's J.E.E.P may be a neat acronym, but the emotions behind it run far deeper. The role of race and identity. Michael Thompson hinted there could be more complex layers at play. The WNBA is a predominantly black league. Caitlyn Clark is white. Some fans openly speculate that her popularity with broader audiences might be tied to racial dynamics, consciously or unconsciously. This isn't a new conversation in basketball. Similar discussions have surrounded players like Larry Bird and Jeremy Lin in the NBA. Race can factor into how society perceives stars, especially when a white player achieves fame in a sport where most of the top athletes are people of color. Then, there's the matter of identity. Women's sports have historically been more inclusive of LGBTQ+ athletes, yet acceptance varies widely among fans and even players. Clark's image, straight, white, Midwestern, with a style reminiscent of Steph Curry, might appeal to mainstream demographics that historically overlooked the WNBA. Some veterans and longtime fans argue that this mainstream embrace, while good for business, can inadvertently overlook the league's many queer and minority trailblazers who paved the way. They see the sudden explosion of interest as an ironic twist. The league was often overlooked because it was too different from standard sports fandom. But now, a young star who fits a more conventional mold is drawing in droves of new viewers. None of these discussions have straightforward answers, and they rarely appear in official press releases. Yet social media is abuzz with them, and Thompson alludes to the fact that people in NBA circles, players, coaches, front office staff, talk about it privately. They've seen how certain white stars get brand deals more quickly, or how certain black stars have to work twice as hard for half the recognition. As Clark continues to rise, the question remains, is the league's acceptance and promotion of her overshadowing the achievements of other players who have also shown remarkable skill? Or is the WNBA simply capitalizing on a can't-miss talent at the perfect time? The undeniable numbers. Whatever side of the argument people choose, the numbers don't lie. Since Clark's arrival, the WNBA has seen one of its best opening stretches in history. Attendance figures for her game smash records in multiple cities, and media coverage dwarfs what the league usually receives. More than once, networks teased a WNBA doubleheader by hyping up Caitlyn Clark's next test, even if she was just playing her third game in 5 nights. Online highlights get millions of views, with fans dissecting every three-pointer she launches and every pass she whips across the paint. Merchandise sales also speak volumes. Clark's jersey sold out in several markets within days of its initial release. Brands started signing endorsement deals and flooding social media with ads that feature her fearless shooting style. Corporate sponsorships, a lifeline for any. Sports League multiplied, with companies seeing Clark as an ideal influencer for younger consumers. People want to emulate her confidence, her flair, and, of course, her astonishing shooting range. From the league's perspective, this is the moment they've been hoping for. An athlete who not only wins games but also transcends sports into popular culture. After years of struggling to convince mainstream audiences that the WNBA is worth watching, they finally have a magnet who pulls in fresh eyeballs. In the short term, everything seems glorious. But in the background, Thompson's J.E.E.P warning casts a shadow. If certain players feel they're being disrespected or overshadowed, will that lead to even more frequent and potentially dangerous fouls on Clark? Could the league's biggest cash cow be at risk every time she steps on the court? The fear of losing the golden goose, one of the most jarring points Thompson raised, was that fans might boycott if Clark gets seriously hurt due to aggressive plays. While that might sound extreme, there's a precedent in sports culture. Sometimes fan bases rally around a beloved figure so strongly that they won't tolerate seeing them targeted or sidelined. Imagine if, during a nationally televised game, Clark gets shoved midair and suffers a severe injury. Social media would explode with accusations that certain players, or even the league itself, were complicit in letting rough tactics go unchecked. Sponsors could pull back, fearing negative PR. And the new wave of fans might simply stop tuning in, concluding that the WNBA can't protect its top draw. From a purely financial standpoint, losing Clark for any extended period could devastate the league's current momentum. Marketing campaigns revolve around her face and name, and her highlights generate massive traffic. ESPN, Fox Sports, and other broadcasters frequently lead with her storyline. If she's not on the court, the WNBA risks reverting to the smaller, niche audience it had before her arrival, or at least losing the chunk of new fans who joined because of her. Beyond the monetary stakes, there's also an ethical dimension. Do you let players get away with borderline or outright dangerous fouls because you want to maintain the rugged, competitive spirit of the league? Or do you intervene more aggressively, calling flagrant fouls, handing out suspensions, and sending a clear message that repeated cheap shots won't be tolerated? The league's response, or lack thereof, will say a lot about how much they truly value this new star. And once again, that intangible swirl of jealousy, envy, ego, and pettiness, J.E.E.P, plays a role. Because if certain veterans interpret stricter officiating as favoritism for Clark, that resentment may only grow stronger. An era on the brink of change. The WNBA has never been in a position quite like this. For decades, it lived in the shadows of the NBA, drawing smaller crowds and minimal media coverage. Now, it stands at the threshold of a potential golden era. A time when primetime slots on major networks become the norm, jersey sales rival those of big-name men's players, and corporate sponsors line up to associate themselves with the league's rising stars. Caitlyn Clark has already proven she can deliver the numbers that the WNBA has long desired. The big question is whether the league can navigate the internal strife that inevitably accompanies rapid success. Will veteran players accept that Clark's fame might open doors for everyone, including higher salaries and better endorsements? Or will resentment build until it becomes a toxic undercurrent that drags down team chemistry and league-wide morale? Will the front office and referees set clear guidelines to protect star players from disproportionate roughness, or continue to allow the so-called rookie hazing to escalate? If they choose the latter, they risk derailing the single most lucrative storyline the WNBA has had in years. This is bigger than just one athlete. The controversy swirling around Clark's reception will test the league's capacity for growth, inclusivity, and self-awareness. Observers wonder if this moment mirrors other sports transformations, like when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird revitalized the NBA in the 1980s, or when Tiger Woods catapulted golf into mainstream pop culture. The difference is that the WNBA already wrestles with deep-seated issues regarding pay equity, media coverage, and historical neglect. Having a breakout star is a dream scenario, but also a delicate operation. Handle it well, and the entire league might flourish. Handle it poorly, and resentment could simmer until it erupts into a crisis no marketing campaign can fix. Beyond hoops. The cultural ripple effect, Caitlyn Clark's influence stretches beyond basketball. She's seen as a fresh-faced athlete who blends showmanship with elite fundamentals, someone young kids can idolize. Social media memes of her deepest shots spread like wildfire, and hashtags linking her to iconic male shooters flood Twitter timelines. Non-sports outlets have begun covering her too, framing her as a pop culture sensation. The conversation around her extends to fashion, social justice, and even brand-building strategies that typically revolve around male superstars. For women's sports at large, Clark is a beacon of hope. Her presence legitimizes the WNBA to fans, who once brushed it aside. It also raises a glaring question: why weren't we paying attention before? Or, more starkly, why did the league need a so-called Caucasian Steph Curry figure to finally grab the public's eye in this way? Some see her arrival as part of a broader push for female athletes to receive the attention they've always deserved. Others remain cautious, believing the hype is more of a celebrity phenomenon than a fundamental shift toward appreciating women's sports. Still, the reality is that any spotlight can lead to progress if leveraged properly. If the WNBA can harness Clark's stardom to elevate other players, particularly those who have historically been overlooked, it might create a more diverse and inclusive fan base. Another cultural ripple involves the internal dialogues on identity and acceptance. Clark's popularity could pave the way for more nuanced discussions about race and sexuality in the WNBA, encouraging fans to explore why they connect with certain players but not others. If done thoughtfully, this can foster greater unity and empathy within the league. However, if handled clumsily, tensions will likely deepen, potentially alienating existing fans who feel the league is moving away from its core values. It's a balancing act the WNBA hasn't faced at this magnitude before. Holding a mirror to the game. Itself an unexpected outcome of Clark's impact is that she's forcing people to re-examine women's basketball's style and narrative. Critics who once scoffed at the WNBA for lacking excitement, can't deny: the thrill of watching Clark casually drain shots from beyond the arc. She's an embodiment of the modern game's evolution, where skill, speed, and range trump outdated stereotypes about women's sports being slower or less athletic. Longtime fans feel vindicated by Clark's success. They argue that many WNBA players have been doing incredible things for years. Clark is simply the catalyst bringing all of that brilliance into the mainstream. Some point to Diana Taurasi or Maya Moore as equally groundbreaking stars who never received the same level of cultural fanfare, fueling a sense of injustice. But the flip side is that Clark's popularity might finally draw attention to these past legends, leading curious new fans to watch old highlights and appreciate the league's history. On a strategic level, Clark's presence could influence how coaches build rosters and plan game strategies. Some believe her unprecedented range and quick release will accelerate a shift toward faster-paced, three-happy offenses. Younger players might start emulating her style, practicing logo-range shots in middle school gyms, hoping to follow her path to stardom. Meanwhile, traditional coaches may resist, arguing that you can't replicate her unique skill set. This philosophical battle could shape the WNBA's evolution over the next decade, especially if Clark's approach consistently translates into wins and championships. Could Clark have been embraced even sooner? In hindsight, another point of controversy is why Clark wasn't ushered into the USA Olympic team or other international showcases earlier. Michael Thompson publicly critiqued the decision to keep her off certain rosters, suggesting it was a missed opportunity. If the goal was to promote women's basketball globally, why not showcase the most exciting player of her generation on the largest stage possible? Some insiders claim politics and favoritism played a role, with established stars occupying key roster spots. Others argue Clark was too young, still honing her leadership skills. Had she been introduced to a global audience sooner, maybe this wave of WNBA attention would have arrived earlier. Or perhaps it would have triggered even sharper backlash from veterans who felt overshadowed. There's also a possibility that international defenses would have keyed in on her playstyle, helping her adapt more smoothly once she eventually joined the WNBA. Speculation aside, it's yet another facet of the conversation about how the league and its governing bodies manage talent. If they missed a golden chance to advertise Clark as the future face of basketball, it's a cautionary tale for future phenoms who might slip through the cracks due to outdated structures or bureaucratic inertia. A crossroads for the WNBA. The drama unfolding around Caitlyn Clark is far more than a simple tale of a rookie shaking up a professional league. It's a crossroads moment that forces everyone, fans, players, coaches, executives, to confront deep-seated issues about recognition, bias, and the future of women's sports. Michael Thompson's J.E.E.P framework has given shape to what many observers were sensing all along: that Clark's extraordinary gifts and explosive popularity might trigger an equally powerful wave of resentment from those who feel overshadowed or bypassed. In truth, Clark's rapid ascent could mark the dawn of a new era for the WNBA, an era of sold-out arenas, primetime TV slots, and big-name endorsements. But it also poses a risk. If the league can't navigate the emotional minefield, protect its rising star, and harmonize the old guard with the new wave of fans, then all this recent momentum might vanish as quickly as it arrived. The stakes have never been higher, and every new game feels like a test of whether the WNBA is ready to fully embrace Caitlyn Clark's transformative potential. Perhaps the most compelling question is how long these tensions will last. Will Clark eventually win over even her fiercest critics by proving that her success lifts everyone's boat? Or will the bitterness intensify, leading to more questionable fouls and broader fan discord? Nobody can say for certain. But one thing is obvious. Every shot she takes, every pass she dishes, and every hard foul she endures is now magnified by a level of scrutiny this league has never seen. For diehard supporters of women's basketball, it's exhilarating to witness a star who can catapult the sport to fresh heights. For the veterans, it's a reminder that fame is unpredictable. It can strike like lightning, illuminating one person while leaving others in the dark. And for those watching from the sidelines, it's a compelling drama that blends sports excellence, personal ambition, and the universal human emotions Thompson labeled so succinctly. However this story ends, Caitlyn Clark has already proven that one rookie can be both a beacon of hope and a lightning rod for controversy. The only question left is whether the WNBA will protect that beacon or let J.E.E.P unravel what could. be the greatest leap forward women's basketball has ever seen.